Two nations, two systems, one global economy. On one side, the United States, architect of the modern financial order, home to Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and the world's reserve currency. On the other, China, the manufacturing powerhouse that lifted 800 million people out of poverty and built the world's largest industrial engine in just 4 decades. This is not just a rivalry of GDP numbers. It is a battle of systems, capitalism versus state capitalism, the dollar versus the yuan, innovation versus scale, alliances versus infrastructure diplomacy. Tonight on KIYO Documentary, we ask the defining economic question of our time. Is China overtaking the United States, or is America still the undisputed economic superpower? Stay with us, because the answer will shape the next century. The United States remains the world's largest economy in nominal GDP terms. Its consumer market is massive, its capital markets are deep, and its corporations dominate global brand value. At the heart of America's monetary power stands the Federal Reserve, which influences global liquidity through interest rates and dollar supply. China, however, leads in purchasing power parity GDP, a measure of real domestic output, under the centralized leadership of the Communist Party of China. The country coordinates industrial policy, infrastructure investment, and long-term strategic planning at a scale rarely seen in history. America's economy is driven, China's is investment and export-driven, though that is changing. The US dollar dominates global trade, accounting for the majority of foreign exchange reserves and international transactions. This gives America what economists call an exorbitant privilege. When crises hit, global capital flows into US Treasury bonds. China's yuan, by contrast, remains tightly managed. While Beijing promotes yuan-based trade settlements and digital currency pilots, it has yet to replace the dollar in global finance. Trust, transparency, and open capital markets remain challenges. The dollar system gives the United States leverage, sanctions power, liquidity control, and financial influence. China seeks alternatives through bilateral trade agreements and cross-border payment systems. China is the world's factory. From electronics to solar panels, steel to rare earth processing, its manufacturing capacity is unmatched. Megaports, high-speed rail networks, and industrial zones stretch across the country. But America leads in technological innovation. Silicon Valley companies pioneer artificial intelligence, semiconductors, cloud computing, biotech, and advanced defense technologies. Venture capital ecosystems support rapid commercialization of ideas. The economic competition is therefore layered. China dominates production scale. The United States dominates high-value intellectual property. Yet this line is blurring. China is investing heavily in AI, quantum computing, and semiconductor independence. The US, meanwhile, is reshoring manufacturing under industrial policy reforms. Both nations carry enormous debt, but structured differently. The United States issues debt in its own currency and benefits from global demand for treasury bonds. Even as debt rises, borrowing costs remain manageable due to the dollar's reserve status. China's debt is concentrated in local governments, property developers, and state-owned enterprises. The property sector slowdown exposed vulnerabilities in China's growth model. However, the centralized system allows swift policy intervention. Transparency differs. U.S. financial data is public and scrutinized. China's internal debt structure is less visible to global markets. China is the largest trading partner for more than 120 countries. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing finances ports, highways, and energy infrastructure across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The United States leverages alliances, NATO G7 partnerships, and strategic trade agreements, American soft power universities, and cultural exports amplify economic influence. The trade war between Washington and Beijing revealed interdependence. Tariffs reshaped supply chains but did not sever ties. Both economies remain deeply interconnected. Demographics may define the next phase of competition. The United States benefits from immigration and a relatively stable population growth rate. Its labor market remains flexible and dynamic. China faces population decline and aging demographics. A shrinking workforce could slow long-term growth unless productivity gains compensate. Human capital is critical. American universities dominate global rankings. China invests heavily in STEM education and engineering talent. The U.S. shale revolution transformed America into a major energy producer. Its energy independence strengthened geopolitical leverage. China, as the world's largest energy importer, seeks diversification, investing in renewables, nuclear power, and overseas energy projects. Green energy is the next battlefield. China leads in solar panel production and battery supply chains. The U.S. focuses on innovation and clean tech subsidies. Wall Street remains the epicenter of global capital markets. U.S. stock exchanges host the world's most valuable companies. Transparency, liquidity, and investor protection attract foreign capital. China's stock markets are growing but remain less open. Capital controls limit free flow. However, domestic savings rates are high, providing internal funding. The depth of U.S. capital markets gives startups access to global funding unmatched elsewhere. This rivalry extends beyond economics into security, technology controls, and trade sanctions. The United States uses export controls to restrict advanced semiconductor access. China invests in domestic alternatives. Economic security is now national security. Supply chain resilience, rare earth control, and AI supremacy are not just commercial concerns, they define strategic dominance. The question may be flawed. It may not be about victory, but coexistence. The United States excels in innovation, finance, and global trust networks. China excels in scale, infrastructure, and industrial coordination. America's strength lies in decentralized creativity. China's strength lies in centralized execution. Short-term growth rates may favor China in some years. But long-term structural advantages, currency dominance, institutional transparency, global alliances still favor the United States. However, history shows no power remains unchallenged. As we conclude this episode of KIYO Documentary, one reality becomes clear. The 21st century will not belong solely to one superpower. Instead of a single dominant economy, we are witnessing the rise of a multipolar system where the United States and China shape global rules simultaneously. The United States is not collapsing. China is not unstoppable. Both face structural challenges. Both possess extraordinary strengths. The global economy is no longer a one-horse race. It is a strategic chessboard, and the moves made in Washington and Beijing today will define prosperity for billions tomorrow. If you found this deep dive valuable, subscribe to KIYO Documentary, where we decode the power systems shaping our world.